On the agenda this week are the actions and words of two women leaders. The IMF's new chief, Christine Lagarde, saying Europe's banks need urgent recapitalisation. That's code for telling us there's a big problem. Then the leader of Europe's most powerful economy, Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel. She's on the road campaigning for support in a crucial vote in the nation's parliament, the Bundestag. This vote will determine whether Germany will back the latest Greek bailout, one that includes $155 billion in new loans, as well as a commitment from Europe's leaders to back Athens until it's strong enough to return to the financial markets. And who knows when that will be. This is Stratfor's Agenda, and joining me to discuss this core issue, I welcome back Peter Zeihan. Peter, will the Bundestag back Merkel, and what happens if it doesn't?
The German population is a little skittish on what's going on with the Eurozone debt situation right now, and something that the German government has yet to do is sit down, address the population, and explain exactly why the German government is doing what it's doing. The problem is you can't have that conversation in modern Germany. Ultimately, the Eurozone debt package, this EFSF2 as it's being called, is about making sure that Germany has full control over the bailout mechanics. This is to give Germany the type of political control that they have sought for the last 300 years of European history. How do Germans have a public conversation with themselves about dominating Europe? That's a problem. And so Merkel is forced to talk about airy concepts such as European unity and fiduciary responsibility without actually getting to the real issue. And that's difficult to convince the voters on, particularly in our own party. The most opposition that we have seen within the German system to Merkel's platform is coming from within our own Christian Democrats. And this is why Merkel has been forced to cancel a couple of foreign trips, including one to Russia. And this is why the date for the debate in the Bundestag has been pushed back 3 weeks to September 29.
And the Germans aren't very receptive to the idea of helping their neighbours because they don't think the neighbours are doing enough to help themselves.
Well, certainly. And it's unfortunately, it's worse than just an issue of will. If the Greeks were actually willing to give it the full try, that's one thing, but the Greeks actually can't. A lot of the southern European states, most notably Portugal, Spain, and Greece, are simply not capable of the levels of low inflationary growth that Northern Europe is. Their territory just is not amenable to it. In Germany, you've got navigable rivers, you've got a good coastline, and you've got large tracts of flat land all in one piece in the northern half of the country. This is prime territory for developing a successful nation and a successful economy. Greece is anything but. It's small, isolated enclaves, hard up on the sea, hard up on the mountains. There's no economies of scale to be gotten. There's no large population centers. You simply can't have the same sort of monetary policy and tax and spend policies that you've got in Germany, apply them to Greece, and have success.
But that's what Merkel is saying. She's saying that those who receive help will have to commit to budget cuts and that the Eurozone needs to move away from being a debt union.
Yeah, you're not going to see that work. The Germans may have the political and financial muscle to force through this round of changes, but even if this buys them another year or two, it doesn't get past the single fact that if you put these types of policies in place in some place like Greece, you are condemning it to no growth for the future, for not just 1 year or 2 years, but for pretty much forever. And that's before you take into account private debt, banking instability, or poor demographics.
So, to come back to my original question, what happens if the Bundestag votes the package down?
If the Germans have a public break with the European Union on this issue, then you're talking about a shattering of German, European, and global confidence in the Eurozone itself. That would mean that all of the concerns that anyone has happened to harbor over the last year and a half since this started will all come boiling up and encounter one hard fact, that the Germans are not willing to bail out the system. If that happens, it's the end of this German government and it's the end of the Eurozone, period.
In your opinion, what's the chances of that happening? It's a tough call.
At present, I'd say there's about a 2 in 3 chance that this is going to pass through the Bundestag without a major problem. But in that other 1 in 3, there's still hope, because the Socialists and the Greens, who are in opposition, are broadly in favor of the reform package, so they might actually be able to save Merkel's government, ironically.
And if you're right, if it passes, then won't we be entering just another eternal circle? Another package will emerge, it might not work, trying something else, and on we go.
The EFSF changes that are as part of this package are sufficient. They do provide the legal precedents and authority for the fund in order to go through and preemptively make bailouts, also in banking sectors. It's a good package for Germany. There's no argument there. However, it's not big enough. So we are going to have to come back to this exact same issue in 3, 6, 9 months when the fund has basically exhausted itself. It could probably handle Spain right now, but it can't handle a Belgium, it can't handle an Italy. So we're going to have to come back to this and increase the size of the fund probably by a factor of 5. And then we just got to go through this whole process all over again.
And Peter, while this has been going on, the new IMF chief, Christine Lagarde, has opened a can of worms by appearing to cast doubts on the whole stability of Europe's banks.
Lagarde just said what everybody has been thinking for some time, that European banks are not nearly as stable as they look. And she's absolutely right, and being the former French finance minister, she is certainly in a position to know. But the Germans right now do not want anyone to say anything that does anything but impose confidence on the system, which is why this next month is going to be so interesting, because we're going to get to watch the Germans debate with themselves the merits of this program without actually discussing why they're doing it. It's going to confuse the hell out of everybody who's watching, and markets are in for one horrible ride in the next 3 weeks.
Peter, thank you. Peter Zeihan there, ending Agenda for this week. I'm Colin Chapman. Thanks for being with me today. Bye for now.